Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken made clear Washington will stand with Tel Aviv against any threats by Iran. 3 sons of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh were killed in an Israeli airstrike in the Gaza Strip on Wednesday. Reports suggest Hamas has stated it lacks the ability to locate 40 hostages needed for a ceasefire deal. Countries in the region and the US have been on high alert. They're preparing for a possible attack by Iran in response to a suspected bombing by Israeli planes of the Iranian consulate in Syria on April 1st. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said on Wednesday that Israel must be punished, and it shall be for attacking the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus. In an apparent response to Khamenei, Foreign Minister of Israel, Katz, said Tel Aviv will respond if Iran attacks Israel from its own soil. Joe Biden and allied officials fear significant strikes within days in a retaliation for the Israeli bombing. The US President promised ironclad support for Israel. Biden's promise comes despite his public criticism of Netanyahu over the toll on civilians in Israel's campaign, especially after a strike killed 7 aid workers.
As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad. We're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security.
Hamas has reportedly told negotiators it doesn't have 40 Israeli hostages that it can re-release as part of a temporary ceasefire deal. The assertion raised fears that more hostages might be dead than previously believed. In the 7th month of the war, Hamas wants an end to Israeli operations, withdrawal from the enclave, and permission for displaced Palestinians to return home. Hamas said the 3 sons of Ismail Haniyeh, Hazem, Amir and Mohammed were killed when the car they were driving in was bombed.
الله يسهل الله يسهل عليهم الله يسهل عليهم يعني إن شاء الله ربنا.
The Israeli military confirmed carrying out the attack, describing the 3 sons as operatives in the Hamas-armed wing. Haniyeh, based abroad in Qatar, has been the tough-talking face of Hamas's international diplomacy as war with Israel has raged on in Gaza. His family home was destroyed in an Israeli airstrike back in November. Relatives said the 3 sons and 4 grandchildren were making family visits during the first day of the Muslim Eid al-Fitr holiday in Shati, their home refugee camp in Gaza City. Speaking to Al Jazeera, Haniyeh said killing of family members won't affect Hamas's demands. Israel will open a new land crossing into the Gaza Strip designed mainly to facilitate deliveries to Palestinians of aid from overseas or from neighbouring Jordan. A spiralling humanitarian crisis has drawn pressure on Israel from its Western and Arab partners to do more to facilitate the entry of aid. Israel has gradually reopened 2 established cargo crossings and created a new crossing on its border. Last week, Tel Aviv announced it would admit Gaza-bound aid shipments at its southern port of Ashdod. Defence Minister Gallant said a new crossing point would be created on the northern part of the Gaza border. It would reduce the time taken to truck in aid from Ashdod, which is 40 kilometres away. An aide said the crossing point would be between the Israeli village of Sikim and the Palestinian village of As-Ceasefire. Israel has also helped set up a maritime corridor for direct deliveries of aid by sea and opened its airspace to foreign planes that have parachuted in aid for Palestinians. There has been disagreement between Israeli and UN counterparts for the aid reaching Gaza. Most people are homeless. Parts of Gaza face famine. Civilian infrastructure is devastated and disease is also widespread. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Jodie Cohen sent us this report from Ranana. Take a listen.
So according to a report, Israel believes that Hamas does have 40 hostages who are alive, who meet Hamas's categories of who they're willing to release. That's women, men over 50 and younger men with medical conditions. But Israel says that if Hamas doesn't, then Hamas should release more younger male hostages, and Hamas is thought to be unwilling to do this. Now, the UK's Foreign Secretary David Cameron has suggested that if the hostage talks fail, the international community should prepare for a Rafah operation in terms of preparing aid and shelter for civilians. Now, Israeli official has said that Israel's buying 40,000 large-scale tents for civilian shelters. The IDF, having withdrawn most of their troops from southern Gaza, said the focus is currently on increasing aid while preparing to target Hamas and look for information about the hostages in Rafah. So it looks like we can either see a deal or further fighting, and President Biden has said that the ball is in Hamas's court and it's up to Hamas to agree to a ceasefire deal. So the US reportedly believes it's a matter of when, not if, Iran will attack Israel, and they're expecting this in the coming days. Now, I was in touch with a former advisor to the Prime Minister, who's a military expert, who said that we could see an attack from Iran or an Iranian proxy such as Hezbollah during the forthcoming Jewish festival of Passover, which starts in a week and a half. Now, she described Hezbollah as Hamas on steroids and suggested that Hezbollah has 10 times the capability to attack Israel as Hamas, and that these capabilities come from Iran. Now, on Thursday, US CENTCOM Commander General Kurilla is expected to travel to Israel, and that's to coordinate a response to an attack from Iran or an Iranian proxy. Secretary of State Blinken had a call with Defense Minister Gallant and said that the US will stand with Israel against Iranian threats. And the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar and Iraq have reportedly all spoken with Iran's foreign minister and conveyed a message about the need to de-escalate.